Oh my god. The throne. I love that lighting there. The rim lighting leaking in from the door. Yeah, that's right, Al. Father, okay. Oh, it's them, isn't it? Oh my god, they all go. Oh, maybe not. Oh, it is! Oh my god. Poor Gluttony. Yes. Wow. And Ling? Oh man, this is quite the reunion. Huh. Yes. Look at that. Oh, look at that. Metal. Yeah. Yeah. There it is. It's not him. Oh, is he?
もしかしてバンホーエンハイムのことか？奴とはどういう関係だ？
一応父親。
父親？驚いた。あいつ子供なんか作っておった。でも確かお前たちの姓はエルリックではなかったのか。
Right.
エルリックは母方の姓だ。知らねえよ。それよりあんたの方こそ。
Why the hell do you look like him?
ホーエンハイムそっくりじゃねえか。
怪我をしているのか？
Maybe I can fix this.
左手がないな。
Whoa.
これでいいかな。
How about that?
骨折か。
Whoa. Whoa.
治った。
Yeah.
あとは肋骨だな。
Most interesting. Look at
お前
this.
たちは大切な人材だからな。
Need you in one
体
piece.
は大事にせねばいかんぞ。
つまり10日交換じゃない。
Now,
なんだお前は。
how about Hohenheim? Can he also do the same?
なんだその中身は。
Right.
そのまま返そう。
Oh man,
なんだ
Ling's the
お前は。
one that's not really needed, right? For any of his plans or anything. No. Hold on.
こいつは俺の仲間だ。人間を愚か者と笑う奴らと同じだ。
お前は血を這いずる虫を愚か者と思うか？虫けらがあがいてもレベルが違いすぎて何の考えも湧かないだろう。私がお前たち人間に思うのはそれと同じだ。
どうやら諸悪の根源はてめえらしいな。一気に肩をつける。
Hold
こ
on.
の際ザコは構ってらんねえ。
ザコとは言ってくれるね、おちびさ。
Chibi-san.
なぜ奴は何のモーションもなしに連成できる？
Jeez, this is a
時間
different
の
level.
無駄だな。
Wow. Oh. Wow.
錬金術が発動しない。
本当にこの下等動物どもときたら大きな力を得た途端に浮かれやがって、それがどんなものかも知らずに。
戻ってきたら教えるって約束だったろうが。
はあ？お前ら虫けらとした約束なんて覚えてないな。
てめえ。
使える駒を増やせるかもしれない。
Whoa.
あれは賢者の石。
Just like that.
ホムンクルスを作るんだよ。
Oh. From a human.
賢者の石を流し込む。うまくいけば人間ベースのホムンクルスが出来上がる。
Right. Seen that recently. Oh.
大抵は石の力に耐えきれず死ぬけどね。
The Ling?
ことさせるか。
Ling is built different though, isn't he?
余計な真似はするな。俺はこれでいい。
何？
Oh, right. Yeah.
それをわざわざくれると言うんだ。願ったり叶ったりだ。
お前何言ってんだ。
Yeah.
おお、面白い。
やめろ。
いいからどっしり構えてろよ。俺は真の皇帝になる男。
Ling, yeah.
いや
Oh man. That voice acting.
なんでガキがこんなところにいる。まあいい。お前の体よこしな。俺様が使ってやる。
Holy shit, isn't that?
この体くれてやる。あ？普通拒絶しねえか。俺は真の皇帝になる男だ。
It is, isn't it?
思い切りのいいやつは好きだぜ。だが後悔すんなよ。
Wow.
カイドと手ぶらで帰ったら腕ぶった切ってまで尽くしてくれた進化に合わせる顔がないだろうが。
Wow.
欲しいんだよ。守るために、手に入れるために、絶対的な力が。危険は元より承知。
Absolute power.
その強欲さ気に入ったぜ。
That was Greed's fighting form, wasn't it? The one that goes all black? And it sounded familiar as well, of course.
ああ、この体の持ち主のことが悪いな。この入れ物はグリーン様がもらっちまった。
It is.
じゃなくて。お前あのグリードなのか。
ああ、あのってどのだ。
覚えてない。 ダブリスの。
お前の前のグリードだ。
ああ、なるほど。
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense actually, all of this.
俺はお前らの知ってるグリードとは別物だ。
リンは。
面白いガキだったぜ。
That he
や
is.
つは俺をすんなり受け入れた。
Oh my god, look at this. Oh,
どうした？
嫌だ。
that's
あの人嫌だ。
the chi.
人じゃない。
ホムンクルスとグルではないようだな。鋼の錬金術師。
Oh, wow. Is this?
エドワード様はどこ？
あれだ。
Oh.
あの小柄なのが鋼の錬金術師。
Oh. Yeah, you fought him. Oh no. Hey, he might end up looking like that. Give it a few years, right? Oh, that noise at the end there. Young maiden.
片付けろグラトニー。奴は今術を使うことができない。
Oh, about that.
みんなひとまとめに。
There's a different type of alchemy, right? Nope.
本当どうなってるんだろう。どうしてスカイあの子は。
Alchemy, right?
わかんねえけど。
Team up.
エシュバールの内乱の真実を教えてやれ。
真実。
内乱のきっかけになった子供の射殺事件は。
Yes, this is
その
it.
エンビーってやつが軍将校に化けてやったことだ。全部そいつらが仕組んだことだ。
This is so big. For the story, this is so big. Turning point. See, there are slight differences there. Like looking at him in full light. Oh no, God.
なぜ我らは滅ぼされねばならなかった。
You have to destroy to build.
貴様らを神の。
Oh,
我らイシュバールの同胞が眠る神のもとへは行かせん。安息も救いも与えられるものと
or
思
that.
え。
Yes.
おお、すげえ。人間のくせにやるな。
グリード、部外者を排除しろ。
This is it. This is it. Ah, okay. He's listening. For now, I suppose.
俺は信じねえぞ。リン。
グリードだ。
This theme goes so hard.
おいお前、 なぜ錬金術が使える？
Wow.
本当に発動している。人体破壊、いや分解か。
Indeed, father.
奴らが自分たちに無益な人間には容赦しない。早く逃げる
Yeah.
んだ。
You get discarded. This is such a great
逃げ
episode.
たのではなかったのか。俺を逃がすというのか。あの医者の娘にとって敵であるこの俺を。
Look at that.
殴り倒してやりたいさ。正直お前なんかに頼むのは嫌だ。でも今はこの子を逃がすのが先だ。
それに地上に逃げる気はもうとんない。
Shoo. Oh, the spark that lit the fuse.
ブラートに匂いで追え。
Oh.
もう再生力が残ってないのか。死にすぎだ。
リンに体を返せ。
できねえそうだ。
Wow, this is quite the. Oh.
仕上がってこな。おめえの国はランファはどうすんだ。
Maybe that gets through. Oh, armbar.
親父殿、捕まえたぜ。
Daddy, sir.
上にラースのところに連れて行け。
あいつリン
I'm sure he's still.
中にいる。
Okay, episode 28. I mean, that is some episode, man. That is some episode. But before I get into it, the post-credit scene. Unfortunately, I did forget. I forgot, but like right after, right after I wrapped it up and I kind of look at my notes, because I have it all kind of, written in there in terms of upcoming post-credit scenes. There's quite a few coming up, even though there was a bit of a break, right? In that stretch of episodes leading up to this. But yeah, unfortunately, at the first attempt, I fell over. I just forgot about it. But I checked it out, of course. Interesting, but ultimately, it's not the biggest miss in terms of having a reaction to it, right? The biggest thing coming out of it, the most significant thing coming out of it, is the fact that Father can control the memory aspect of it. Right? He wants to recreate gluttony. Poor gluttony. I know. But over the past few episodes, I've come to really have this not attachment to gluttony, but I've come to care for gluttony. Even here, you see Envy's like, oh, go get him, go finish him off. And I'm speaking of Scar. But yeah, gluttony on his last legs. I mean, that was it. He used all of it up. So I mean, he's lucky, or it's lucky, that it's really close by to Father, right? It's in that area. Lust wasn't as lucky. She was legitimately just out of all souls in her stone. So she was just kind of gone for good. She was killed off. And, of course, looking back at it, yeah, I appreciate it that they took that step, killing that significant character, a prominent character, and Sin. But it should be fine for gluttony. Now, the key or the significant moment here is that Father can control the memory aspect of it, right? He tells gluttony, my son, right? I thought the approach even was kind of quite interesting. It's not the approach he had with the last greed. And that might be the reason this greed has no recollection, right? No memories. But it looks like Father is able to bring the Sin back, memories intact, if he chooses to, as he's promising gluttony. Unless, of course, it's the manner of death, greed burning up like that in that fire. I don't know. But to me, it really felt like, okay, he made the choice to make greed forget, right? Given greed's disposition, right? And how he doesn't really quite gel with the rest of his family, goes on to do his own thing. The thing is, even if you forgot, it's just in Greed's nature. So it was really exciting to see that personality back on the screen, right? I mean, as far as shocks go, and as far as things that I was expecting go, I mean, that is something I didn't even imagine or think of. Like, it wasn't even a possibility to think of, right? That I might get Greed back. But once it happens, yeah, it makes sense, right? And I think Ling being the one that gets greed, it's actually not far-fetched at all, is it? Actually, it checks out quite perfectly, doesn't it? As noted by Greed himself or itself in that little meeting they had inside of Ling's mind. But I love the presentation of that. I really did. Ling's insatiable greed is certainly pointed out by Greed itself as well. Or the insatiable greed for riches is pointed out and noticed or noted by Greed. But I think even if Greed doesn't have any memories of the last Greed, right, that disposition, that stance, those feelings, I think they might be the same for every iteration of Greed, right? Sooner or later, he starts to break off. I think the same thing's going to happen here at some point. And that makes it really quite exciting or quite a prospect to have him and Ling paired up. Right, that is such a never did I think I'm going to have Ling as one of the human homunculus or homunculi. That's the second one now, right? But of course, the makeup of it is a bit different. For King Bradley, it was just the one soul that was left over. But here it's quite a unique situation because you have Ling who is openly giving himself up, right? He's accepting it. He's not putting up a fight. He's not trying to reject anything. So I think that plays a big part here, right? I think it's pretty clear, given some of those reactions in relation to the mention of, Jing or Lan Fan, that Ling is there. Of course, Ling is there. It's not as if he just disappeared. I mean, that is the reason I'm so excited about this. This team up, if you can even call it that, you've got like a greedling, or you've got Ling greed, or, you got homunculing. Exciting. It's exciting stuff. But this idea that Greed and Ling's character arcs might be intrinsically linked from this point on is so exciting to me. So exciting to me. I was not expecting that one bit. But again, like I mentioned, since it is something Father can take and give, right? The sins that he has separated from himself, the human sins essentially, or the things that kind of link him to humans, the sins, right, that he has kind of extracted from himself. And in that sense, in terms of his disposition and how he carries himself, he's quite robotic, isn't he? But there's actually some really interesting and exciting mannerisms as well as he first comes across the Elric brothers, who he doesn't know at all, right? I mean, in that sense, of course, there's a concrete official confirmation here that they are two different people, right? Not a shocker, but it's good to get an official confirmation, right? And anytime they kind of mentioned Father before this, or at least a few times they mentioned Father, or the creator of the sins, they would always kind of transition or cut to Hohenheim, right? Kind of as a misdirect almost. But now you see they are clearly showing us both of them in two separate locations, right? Who knows how far out Hohenheim is, right? But even so, he is able to feel, right? That connection is there. Hohenheim and Father. I mean, of course, that goes without saying. There is a connection there. They look the exact same, right? So much so that, of course, Al thought that was Father, or Dad, as he called it. And then, of course, Ed also, he was a little bit more puzzled. He's like, Hohenheim? And, as I am on the topic, might as well kind of continue, right? And I'm speaking of Hohenheim, feeling that change, the moment Father nullifies alchemy or the use of alchemy in that area. I'm not sure how far it stretches, right? The scale of it, because that is so OP, isn't it? But the really intriguing and exciting portion of that, or part of that, is the fact that he seems to have a fundamental control over alchemy, right? I mean, Envy is essentially even hinting at the source of alchemy being Father. They are kind of taunting Ed, right? And kind of really having a laugh at them about how helpless they feel all of a sudden, right? Oh, you get a bit of power and you think you're all that, right? Don't make me laugh. Or are you having a laugh, for a British term? But yeah, at that point, to me, it felt like the implication there is that the source the big man over here, the boss man over here, has this intrinsic link to alchemy as a whole. And it's not far-fetched, is it? Because I've been speaking of the whole Eastern and the Western sages, right? Here you have essentially the Eastern sage, right? I kind of locked it in, I think, in the last episode or the episode before that it wasn't Hohenheim that's the Eastern sage. It's actually Father, right? So his control over alchemy, it makes sense because as the story goes, it was those two sages that introduced alchemy in those two different areas, right? And Father's shocked reaction, that was interesting to see, right? Because this is a being that is so, again, robotic and so unmoved by these frivolous encounters that are going on in front of him. I mean, he was so unbothered by it all, right? But that caught his attention. So that alchemy, right, the alkahestry introduced by the Western sage, is the type that he doesn't seem to have any control over. And it also kind of levels it out a bit in terms of, his OP abilities, right? I mean, this is a different level, it is, even if he doesn't have control over alkahestry, right? Potentially Hohenheim's alchemy, or perhaps the type he perfected and, introduced into places like Jing. Now let's kind of take it back a bit and kind of focus on the meeting that happened. Right? It essentially gave us a first proper look at Father, right? How he carries himself, the things he's capable of, his disposition. Yes, I've seen him before, but that was just him and the sins, right? Here, it's him and a lot of other people. And listen, I mentioned some really interesting reactions and mannerisms. A lot of that was around the Elric brothers, right? Now, listen, maybe he's putting on a bit of a front because he knows, as he called them, precious. You are precious to me. And it's important that you stay in one piece, as I kind of called it. But I think he said something else, something along the same line, right? Now, the interesting thing here is, even though there's clearly some kind of connection there, going all the way back to Xerxes, even Hohenheim and Father, he doesn't quite recall him immediately, right? So that's another indication that this goes so far back, and they separated so long ago that, yeah, it's now one of those immediate, Hohenheim, eh? You have to kind of go through the Rolodex a bit, kind of, go back a bit, even though it was kind of ringing a bell, and then you had to clarify a bit. Listen, he was kind of jovial at that moment, right? Quite amicable. And, I thought his reaction to finding out that these are actually his children, I mean, he was happy. He looked happy for Hohenheim, right? It was actually kind of wholesome, wasn't it? But, soon after, as, two different conversations are going on, you see that Father is really deep in thought now. But the two significant things that came out of it, I mean, it's the only two things coming out of that internal monologue of his. First of all, he just straight up confirms to himself, okay, he can't be dead, right? He can't die. Right? Again, kind of confirming to us, the audience, okay, yes, that immortality aspect or angle, yeah, it's there. It's there for sure, right? And Father knows this about Hohenheim as well. Of course he does, right? They've clearly spent a lot of time together back in Xerxes. Now, the other thing that I found really interesting, even though he was a little bit happy and he was quite jovial over the reveal of this, that, Hohenheim goes on to have children, right? He also found it a bit later, right? He found it a bit interesting, but for him to have children, I think that was a line of dialogue. And then, of course, he kind of gets cut off because Ed's injury kind of, takes his attention. And then, of course, in that moment, you get to see the control he seems to have over alchemy, right? The master of alchemy is the term that comes to mind because this man, it's a different thing to him altogether. It's essentially a fundamental part of his buildup. That's the feeling I was getting here. I mean, and in terms of his buildup, him turning Ling into greed or a human homunculus, him extracting that liquid philosopher's stone. Now, is that essentially his blood, right? Is that essentially the blood that runs through him, right? If he even has human buildup, that's the other question, right? I think this potentially actually could be a being that might actually be made up of philosopher's stone, right? And that's actually just parts of him that are being extracted rather than actual blood that runs through him. I mean, if the Philosopher's Stone in its liquid form is your blood, then you're not human, right? You're not going to be able to survive that. I mean, that's not even an argument, right? That's not even a discussion point. He's not human. He's not a normal human. That's a given. That's a given for sure. And then you see that really familiar disposition that was really hinted at and showcased and depicted in the last episode, in the recap episode, right? Not Hohenheim, Father's stance on humanity, right? His outlook on humans. That whole concept of them being so insignificant, like bugs, right? To him, fuel for his plans, fuel for his fire. It's present. It's certainly present here as well. And this comes out of that really interesting call out from Ling, right? This is the type of person who thinks humans are dirt beneath him or beneath it. But also in terms of Ed calling out Father as the root of all evil, right? I'm not too sure about that just yet, right? I don't have enough on Father just yet, and the reasons for his motive. I think one of the things I'm most interested in or excited about at this point is finding out more about Father and his motives, right? I'm sure it's a bit more nuanced than presented a few episodes ago. Yes, it was kind of wrapped up and presented as this ultimate goal, right? But I think the reasons for these motives they could be quite interesting, right? And I'm looking forward to seeing those reasons. One of the most exciting parts of this series, of this story, is the eventual flashback, the backstory of Father and Hohenheim. Potentially going all the way back to Xerxes. That's exciting. That is something really on the top of my list at this point. Also, there's a really quick moment there, right? As Father took the step, and just like Envy, it made that really loud noise, right? As if the size isn't quite matching that stomp almost, right? So maybe hinting at a potential larger form for Father as well, or the makeup of Father, right? If he is made up of the Philosopher's Stone, that certainly adds up as well then, right? Or if his buildup is kind of intrinsically linked to the Philosopher's Stone and Alchemy. But kind of shifting the focus to Scar, you've got to love Scar. Anytime he comes on screen, it's just such a great moment to see this character. But the big moment here happened, a turning point. He knows. Now he knows, right? So it's a big moment for his trajectory, his character arc, his progression, his redemption arc, essentially, right? Now he knows. Though at first, it took him a few moments, took him a split second to kind of trust Ed. And I found that to be realistic, right? But yeah, he knows now. He knows now. And essentially, he's about to change his target, right? Hopefully, right? Because after this, there's actually no reason for him to go after the alchemists. I mean, yes, listen, that doesn't absolve the state alchemists from their part. I mean, there are people like Kimberly, though. See, now that's a character that maybe it's on the horizon now, because now I'm really starting to get a lot of these characters in the limelight, right? Now I'm deep into it at this point, right? Almost at the midpoint, right? Not almost, episode 30. Episode 30 is a big deal, That's a lot of episodes. So yeah, I'm sure Kimberly is around the corner. But in terms of Scar and Mei Chang and Xiao Mei, and then Al, a great little team up there. Even though, Al makes it clear, I don't want to be in this position to be asking you for help. But, that's not important. Let's put that aside. This little girl is important. Though she's not really that little either. I'm not sure if I got an age, but maybe the way she's drawn and the height makes me think she's much younger than she actually is. Though I think she's got to be younger than Ling, right? Though of course Ling also looks much older than Al, or sorry, not Al, Ed, but apparently they're around the same age, right? So yeah, that escape, it was interesting because he straight up mentioned that, okay, I'm in no position to be able to escape and protect the girl at the same time, and also then goes on to state that I have no intention of escaping to the surface. Yet he's gone, right? He's gone, and Mei Chang is gone, right? So something interesting happened there, I mean, it was really cool to see the same type of escape or tactic as Mustang and Havoc back against Lust, right? Used Al's helmet as a spark, but also lastly on Scar, you see this man. He doesn't hide behind justifications, right? He holds himself responsible for the death of Winry's parents, and he tells Al as much. You're gonna let me get away? I'm the person who killed your friend's parents, right? So he holds himself accountable for that. So a part of it even kind of feels like he wants to be judged for this. He wants the punishment for this, right? And that he has a lot of guilt over this. And I discussed this a few episodes ago, right? Around the time they had the run-in. The guilt he must carry at all times over killing people like her parents, right? Doctors, not just any people, doctors, right? Trying to help his own people. So yeah, Scar is such an interesting character. I love to see him anytime he's on screen. But let's shift the focus back to Ling and Greed, right? It actually checks out. It makes complete sense that Ling ends up being used as Greed, right? Because Ling's own greed is on full display at these moments, right? As he faces Greed in that, interesting realm. And listen, at this point, there's no chance that I could possibly underestimate Ling. I think before he took the plunge, he had a distinct plan in mind. Like he knew, first of all, he knew the thing he's getting into, but I think he has a grasp on the thing he's trying to accomplish here by, letting this happen. So yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about this. Two of my favorite supporting cast characters that have appeared. If you'll remember, I really enjoyed Greed, right? And I was really quite upset to see Greed go out like that, or go out so soon after being introduced, right? And then of course Ling, love Ling, but to have them together, it's kind of like a fusion. If you're a Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z fan, to have a fusion of these characters now, I almost kind of said Jekyll and Hyde, right? Maybe it could be that kind of situation a bit, the two personalities kind of, back and forth. Because you see, as Ed kind of tries to punch him into submission or punch him out of it, the ultimate shield doesn't go up, right? He takes the punch, he starts bleeding, and you see there's a difference in the eyes, so again, through animation, it was really quite effective to depict that switch, perhaps, in demeanor, in the personality coming out to the forefront. So I'm so excited to see how this plays out. It'll be exciting to see the next time Greed or Ling Greed kind of runs into Lan Fan. And also, how about the whole passing out thing, right? Low blood sugar and all that potential. Could that also play a role here? It'd be a funny scene if it's Greed and all of a sudden he just collapses, right? And also, how beautiful is it to see that connection? How far it's come after some of these bonding experiences, if you can call them that. Some of these shared experiences. And I'm speaking of Ed and Ling, that brotherhood. Like I said, he only might have the one biological brother, but he's got another brother, and that's Ling. I love the relationship that they've developed. You see just how much Ed cares for Ling. He's fighting for Ling, right? And he has not given up on Ling. He's convinced that Ling's in there, and he's spot on. Ling is in there. So it's exciting. It's really exciting setup. And those bonds and those connections I spoke of, it's beautiful. It's beautiful stuff. This the anime, this story, it's just so grand. Every single episode is something just so exciting in this whole grand story that it's trying to present. You guys kept telling me, strap in from this point on. Every single episode is a banger. Yeah, spot on. It's been quite the ride, and I'm so happy that I have so much of it still to go. But I'm also happy that I can get to it much quicker, as well, right? So exciting! It's exciting times. I think that might do it for this one, folks. Yeah, it's a good one. It was a good one. So if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you're interested in early access, and that's 3 early access episodes at this point, or perhaps even full length, consider checking out the Patreon page. The links are in the description and in the pinned comment. Also links for social media. If that's your thing, check it out. Right then, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is. And I do hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.